Marcus can words come to pass. Marcus can words come to pass. Can't get no food to eat. Can't get no money to spend. Whoa. Can't get no food to eat. Can't get no money to spend. Come little one, oh let me do what I can for you. And you, hello. Come little one, come. Whoa. Let me do what I can for you and you alone. You know the right hand to it now shall be spanked with many.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Black Print of the UNIA Rock Media. This is the First Assistant President General of the UNIA. My name is Raymond Duguay and I'm at your service. Well, today we have a very special edition, special interview with none other than Dr. James McIntosh, co-chair of CEMOTAP, chair of BAPA, but more importantly, our friend, our guide, our elder that we look up to. So without further ado, we're going to be discussing none other than Netflix and what we Africans can do. And this is a result of Dr. McIntosh making a presentation last week at the International African Arts Symposium. It was dynamic, it was to the point, it was very coherent, very sequential, very uplifting. So what's the next thing? UNIA, Dr. Mac, UNIA is calling on you. We need to discuss it further. We need all hands on deck, all Africans. We've got to come together and close this out. We cannot allow this to continue. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Dr. James McIntosh. Greetings, Dr. McIntosh.
Greetings, Brother Raymond. One slight mistake in the, it wasn't really a mistake in the intro. You introduced me as a friend. I am a citizen and a member of the UNIA.
But you're my friend first.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, sir.
you know, people don't understand. A lot of times in the struggle, Brother Itel said this to me. This was like 12 years ago. And he said this to me. He said, Brother Raymond, in 3 months, I know everything about you. I know where you live. I met your mother, your mother-in-law, your children. I've been to your home. There are people I've known in the Pan-African community 15 years. I don't even know their last names. And so we really have to make an effort to know each other, to get to know each other. And so, Dr. McIntosh, I call upon you. I count you as a friend. So that to me, as a brother, as someone I look up to, and, I've got to say this, Dr. McIntosh. I was raised not far from where the CEMOTAP is. I was raised on Sutter Avenue in South Ozone Park. And I was still in the neighborhood. I hadn't gotten married yet. And I remember when it came up, and, the flag of Africa was there. Not the flag, the cartouche of Africa. And I always wanted to, man, when am I going to be able to go in there and get to know these people? Because I knew of you and Sister Betty. And now that, I know both of you and I count on you as friends, both of you, it's such a happy feeling that, but Dr. McIntosh, before we get into Netflix, I got to ask you this. That was like 35 years ago, 36 years ago. Where the rest? Okay, you guys are the up front, the front line. Where's the middle and the back line? Where's the youth, people like me? Where are we? Shouldn't we be ready to be receiving the mantle to continue this?
Absolutely. We have, I would say we're kind of like an iceberg. We do have, some other layers. We have an executive committee. Many of them are elders also.
I've noticed.
But we have a couple of younger members also who are...
Thankfully.
we've always been open for young people, and actually have done some, I would say, even some recruitment things. It's just not a lot of people want to do what we do. First of all, we're completely volunteer. There's nobody making a dime at CEMOTAP. Nobody. We have no staff. We have no, real businesses or anything like that. So young people, a lot of young people, they're kind of focused on the dollar and that sort of thing. But we've had some summer programs. Again, we don't take any money from the government or anything like that. So these are all, everything is volunteer on the part of our membership. So we have a very strong membership that supports us. They might not necessarily be out front, but they certainly do support the programs and things that we have. Now, we've had programs, summer programs, in which we've taken a class from Banneker High School once, and we had an intern.
Is that Banneker in Brooklyn?
Banneker in Brooklyn.
I think Roger Green was behind that.
He was one of the minds behind it, and there were some people who actually were on the ground. People like Segun was a teacher there. Dr. Sanford's son was on the faculty there. And we kept them for summer, an internship, in which we taught them how to organize, we taught them how to debate, and we had several debates. We let them, kind of come up with some of the topics, and we would gather an audience for them and everything, and we gave them a stipend at the end of the...
Wow, all of that.
All of that.
Being educated, being exposed, and a stipend.
We've had another thing called Sons of CEMOTAP, in which we had community people come in and teach young men some of the skills necessary to be a competent man. I mean, something as simple as how to change a tire, something as simple as how to defend yourself, something as simple as some educational things, such as we had a brother come in and teach them the alphabet from Me to Netra, and just all kinds of things. Brother Shango Blake came and taught them close order drill. We did that for summers. If I see these young men on the street, they smile, they greet me, so on and so forth. But none of them have come to do what we do. We know that they're going to do something better than they were going to do if we hadn't had the contact. But this may not be. Everybody doesn't have the same mission.
Let me ask a question. Is liberating our people, is that thankless and difficult work?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's the big, there's a big mission. That's the big mission you just described there, but there are components to it.
Okay.
Some people, they see the importance of business. They see the importance of trying to, get some money, independent money. Some people see the CEMOTAP people saw the importance of the African image, the fact that we were being debased and defiled in the mainstream media, and seeing the fact that we need media of our own, that we need even black media. It needs to be independent and uncontrolled. So I think we've kind of set an example, I would say. I mean, it's not really for me to say, but for others to say in terms of what you can do as volunteers. Okay. And so, we've done those things, but different people have different missions. There are people who train in preparedness, and very often many of these people come through CEMOTAP and do individual, independent things. When we were young, we were more of an in-your-face type of organization. I mean, we were on the streets demonstrating all the time.
You know what I remember? Saving Like It Is with Gil Noble.
Sure.
That's what, Dr. Jeffries, all of that. That's what I remember.
Yes.
So, okay, so...
And Gil had his mission. There's nobody to take over after him.
Yeah. Do you know, growing up, we're talking in the 80s, when I was at City College, every Sunday, this was before call waiting and call forwarding, before cellular phones. In my house, everybody knew, do not touch the phone on Sundays from 1 to 2.
Yes.
My father would say, okay, you guys are watching it. Do you need to be on the phone discussing it while you're watching it? It's like, did you see this? Yeah. I can't believe this. Okay, I'll call you right back. It was like a network of friends. Like It Is, Gil Noble. That was the real deal.
It was a college course, you know what I mean?
Yes, it was.
An ongoing college course. I'll tell you something that I was able to do. I've spent, my career was as a psychiatrist. It's the main thing that I did was in medicine and psychiatry.
And before you continue, I have to say this to you. And I was speaking to my son Rodney the other day, and he was saying, "But Daddy, in your own, you did what you could." Because I was saying, growing up when my children were being raised, I was chasing dollars, and I freely admit it. And so, if you're chasing dollars, and in addition to chasing dollars, I was raising children. Because, Margie had to go to med school, all of that stuff, because she went to med school later in life. We already had children. And anyway, in fact, when she entered med school, we had 2. When she graduated, we had 4. So you kind of figure out what was going on. But what I have to say this, and I need to say this publicly, and that's why I have such a deep and profound admiration and respect for you, is obviously you did the dollars, but you uplifted and liberated our people. And that's really commendable because, a lot of our times, all we're doing is chasing dollars. I can't go to this demonstration. I can't do this letter writing campaign. I've got to chase dollars and I've got to raise children. But that's why I've always, people like you, Dr. Jeffries, Nana, Betty Dobson, when I look at these Africans, I say, wow, they made a living, but they also were in the front line liberating our people. Your response to that, and I commend you especially.
Well, I thank you for that, Brother Raymond. But we have so many examples in our past of people who had to do it all. If you take Harriet Tubman, a lot of people think of her making these trips. A lot of people think of what she did in the army when she was treating soldiers and all. But there were there was some logistics to these things, and they required money. It required things. A lot of people don't know that when Harriet Tubman was going to a hospital, getting ice to come treat the soldiers, to let the ice melt, wipe the caked up flies and blood on their face, off of their faces. They loved her. They called her Auntie Harriet. That she wasn't getting money for those supplies.
That's right.
She had to raise the money for those supplies.
That's right.
So at night, she would bake, they said, 50 hoe cakes. And then the people that they call the contraband, that was our people, the freed Africans, she would get them to go out and sell it. So look at that. She's organizing a sales force to go out and get the money so that she can do the things to serve the black Union soldiers who are now going to go and liberate our people, who are, in the course of liberating our people. At other times, it was necessary for her to go and do recon for the military, And other times she had to lead, and there were places where the soldiers couldn't even get buy-in from the people, but they knew of Harriet Tubman, and she was the person they would listen to as she freed, on one mission, freed 800 people. There's one person that I consider the biggest type of dunce and a scholar, but supposed to be a scholar, is a woman who made it her mission to prove that Harriet didn't go down 19 trips and didn't free 319 people. And she's got some number now, and because of her prominence and whatnot, it's the number now that everybody is saying, as opposed to the number that people were saying years ago. What a waste of your time.
But not only that, at West Point, part of the curriculum is to teach the invasion of Harriet Tubman into Maryland, June 2nd, 1863. Wow. That's a known fact. Only time in the history of these United States, a woman, especially a black woman, led 600 infantrymen to invade a land. Yeah. So, this is,
So I'm saying, my point was that people had to do all of these things at the same time. And Harriet Tubman is just one example, but people had to farm. They had to, they had to. Harriet had to do surgery. She had to,
on the job training. And what about that guy who had to build the school? They tell him, you're the principal. He gets there. He says, there's nothing there.
Nothing.
And he had to learn how to make bricks. What about that? What do you say to that?
I'm saying, so, anytime you feel sorry for yourself, if you go, the struggle is thankless and the struggle requires you to do too much, just understand this. Harriet Tubman would not feel sorry for you. Marcus Garvey would not feel sorry for you.
Or that guy, or that guy that you referenced who came in the United States in 1916. He's going to get 12 million members from 38 states of the United States, 41 countries. So, okay. So, Dr. McIntosh.
Yes, sir.
CEMOTAP.
Yes, sir.
It's created. And we know its mission. what's going on with Netflix, Good Times? Give us the background. And was Good Times ever Good Times? Give us that back, because you also explained how how they was being pitched to, I think, Norman Lear and whomever. And go ahead, go right ahead.
Okay. So back in the 70s and on into back in the 70s, there were a series of situation comedies in which, racial issues started to be discussed on TV. One of the things Baraka had written a long time ago is that he liked the TV before. When we weren't on there, they couldn't make really such buffoons out of us,
That's
But
right.
there came a point in the 70s where there was more representation. And one of the people who made millions off of this was a guy by the name of Norman Lear. And he had a series, some series, I think, All in the Family. I can't even
The Jeffersons, Maud, Good Times. Keep going.
Right. And there was a brother by the name of Eric Monty and another brother by the name of James Evans. You notice the name James Evans is the name of one of the characters in Good Times, but this is the real James Evans. Monty pitched to. They came up with an idea for a show called Good Times, and in it you would have a complete black family. Monty says that Lear was on with the idea, but the idea of having a complete black family was something he didn't want to do, and he had to fight in order to get him to do that. Then after they made the series, in which you had one of the youngsters was named JJ, the youngest one was named Michael. I can't remember what the daughter's name
Thelma.
was. Right, Thelma. Right. Everybody loved Thelma.
Everybody.
Right.
Every teenager, black youth,
correct.
we used to look up to Thelma, yes.
And Esther Roll is the mother, and John.
Florida. Flo,
Florida,
that was her name, yeah.
Right. And one thing about it, all the people had natural hair, had afros.
No, but is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because,
Florida had an afro. I mean, there came a point where I think
no, but
Thelma may have changed hairstyle.
She did,
There was
and
a
then
point where,
what about the neighbor, the
No, I'm speaking of the family.
Oh, the family. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm speaking
Yes.
of the family.
Do you think that was coincidental or that was definitive? There was a message being sent there.
I think it was the times,
Mm-hmm.
that it was something that we were doing as a people at the times. So the point is that they had a family. It was a comedy, and so there was some comic relief. There was one character named JJ who used to, he created
Buffoon.
He was the clown. He was they have jesters and all kinds of humor, and he was the person who would say dynamite, and everybody around the country was saying it after he was saying it, and so. But sometimes they would have messages, there would be things that basically promoted good family values, that sort of thing. You never heard any cursing on there. You never saw anything lewd or rude, crude, or socially unacceptable. But people had a problem with it because of the buffoonery of JJ. And in fact, what happened is that John Amos, who was the father character, he began to feel that they were promoting JJ over the other kinds of messages that the movie showed. And he began to protest, and ultimately they wrote him out of the show. And ultimately, the show came under criticism for some of those things. But the fact of the matter is that when Netflix this year rolled out what was supposed to be a spinoff or a takeoff or something related to that first series called the Good Times reboot, the reboot was so bad. It was a cartoon. It was so bad in terms of how negative it was that I've said it made the original Good Times look like the Husia or the sacred wisdom of our African people. It had.
Let me ask you a question.
With,
Did Dr. Maulana Karinga approve your using Husia as an analogy?
I thought I saw him smile when he came and he supported us. We had a mass meeting on Zoom from all over the country. And one of the people there was Dr. Maulana Karinga. Another one was Dr. Malefi Asante. Another one was Dr. Tony Browder. And basically we had we had local people and people, but there were people who attracted people to come. We had a nice audience. But back to this comparison of these two series, I wish I had some of my slides with me. I have a pic. You see one family versus the other family. In the second family, instead of having an afro like Florida, this family now has a blonde. I don't know whether it's a wig or whatever it is. The second family, instead of having like a stately looking guy like John Amos as the father, they have a person who it appears that the template for his head was that of Magilla gorilla. He has a small cranium, wide mandible, and is ape-like looking. They have a baby that has blonde hair, and the baby is selling drugs, is on the street selling drugs.
And you know this by watching the reboot?
No, I would never look at that series. They had a trailer.
Just the trailer.
The trailer was like maybe 5 minutes long or something. And in that 5 minutes, they completely did everything they could to beat down the black family, to beat down African people. It had basically around 7 basic messages: that black people are ugly, black people are stupid, black people are worthless, black people have nothing sacred that anybody is bound to respect, black people are hypersexual, criminal, and from birth, and that our struggle for freedom, justice, and equality and independence, so on and so forth, is a joke. That those are the messages that, and really it doesn't take long. I have a video that I did that we used just some slides from the trailer, and literally in the first 3 or 4 slides we establish all the messages. One of the first scenes in the trailer is the young man, that's the son and his sister, and she asked him a question. He says, yeah, is it that they're going to give you disability for your face? So what's the message there? Black people are ugly.
Let me interrupt for a quick second. I never, as a child growing up, watching all of those shows, anytime we were being depicted denigrating ourselves, and besides, and I need to tell our audience, it's not us doing it. This is what the producers and the writers write in, and we're not in a position to cancel that. Whenever that was said or done, I would feel so bad towards that. I would stop watching it. In fact, we weren't big television watchers at the house. My father wasn't. In fact, it's only when much later in life that we could watch television Monday through Thursday. Monday, Thursday, no television. It was only Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then when we got older, so I missed the beginnings of Good Times.
The original.
Yeah, I mean, because my parents were still locked down. It's only when I got to like high school, my father relaxed a bit. But that was the best thing for us. We didn't realize it. But anyway, getting back to it, anytime I saw, let's say, the Jeffersons used to be on Sundays, so I could watch that. Whenever they were like denigrating each other, I said, this is nonsense. Why do we do that? I mean, not we, why do the white writers, white producers, white television people, why do they do that? I mean, we're already at the bottom. There's really no need for this. But there is a need if you always want to continue to make sure black people never rise.
It's a tool of oppression. If you take the person that invented the bulb, the lamp, that would be Lewis Latimer, right?
Yes.
And certainly he, was able to put the carbon filament in the lamp to make it burn for a long time. The person with whom we associate him is Thomas Edison. He never worked directly for Edison, but he worked in one of those projects. And so Edison knew who he was. Then we have Edison invents the stuff in order to
for the carbon filament, right?
Project. No, I'm speaking of the film projector.
Edison. Yeah, of course.
The film projector. Well, even though he knew of Granville Woods, who beat him in patent court, he knew of our great scientists. So he still made movies such as in the Woodpile, Coon, and such and such. I mean, he made those derogatory movies.
Even though he was in the position.
Personally knew, even though he coveted the invention of Granville Woods, even though he knew of the contribution of Latimer to what it was that he had done. So it wasn't because of ignorance so much, because some people think it's simply from ignorance. No, it's a strategy because that's how they keep, or how they attempt to keep us down. Over the years, in the film industry, there's like certain basic stereotypes that they use, and it's all for a purpose. I mean, if you really, a person by the name of Leakim Samaj once wrote that the television is a microscope into the mind of the European. You can tell what's in the other person's mind by the things they fixate on. So these things that they worry about, the strength, the beauty of our people, they take it and they flip it and they make it reverse. And they create the appetites in people to have us as the buffoons, you know, to have us in their films and stuff. They don't want to leave us out. They want us in there because in the world structure that they're trying to dominate, it is necessary, as Amos Wilson would say, it's necessary for us to feel like buffoons. It's necessary for us to feel bad for them to be able to dominate us. It's necessary for us to be disunited and from the family on up. The family's basic structure of, of the society. It's necessary to destroy our families. You know, it's not just some random stuff that they're doing. I did want to return a little bit to this Netflix.
Go right ahead.
Just delineate some of the things that were wrong with it. So I said in the first few slides, the first thing is the son saying this thing about his sister's face. Then the father, because he said to get disability for a face, the father says, can that be done? What's the message there? The father's stupid, right? And then the daughter then says to the son, says about this is from a guy who stares at milk container or an orange juice container. And he says, it says concentrate, milk from concentrate, right? So they're still reinforcing that. Then the father gives another one of the messages. Remember I told you one of the messages is that black people are worthless? So the boy says, who the dummy now? Because he said something smart. And the father says, me, for not wearing a condom when y'all were born. So you have the father telling his children that they're worthless.
Right.
That beyond worthless. That they're really a negative. That and all of that is right in the first few scenes. And I mean, soon after that, you see the baby selling drugs. You see and they do. As I said, you see what's in the other person's mind. The abnormality is in the European mind. African people, there were places where women didn't necessarily have to wear a top because the breast wasn't anything sexual. The breast was what you fed your children with. It was natural, totally natural. But Europeans have made it into this sex object. And in this video of the Good Times, they have the baby leering at a woman whose breasts are nearly exposed and talking about, boy, my mouth is ready for some milk now. But it's really clearly, and if you have questions about it, the sexual piece, the hypersexuality is throughout the video. You have the school teacher with alcohol, drinking from an alcohol flask with a pack of cigarettes in her pocket, and the mother's coming there. But I say black people are stupid. The boy is repeating the 10th grade for the 3rd time, and the mother is there to the teacher trying to find out what she can do.
Right.
She says to get him through the drive-through. In other words, to make it easier. But even the word drive-through is one of these things with a sexual connotation, which we won't go into right now. But less subtly, the teacher says when she wants to know what she can do to get it, she says, well, does he do all fans? And this is a porn site in which people show their, whatever.
Okay.
And then she says, let me see his feet to see what he's working with. Now that's bad enough that the teacher is insulting and making sexual comments to a child. A black teacher is doing it to a black child. But his mother is there, and his mother is portrayed as this Christian woman. You know that if you're talking about a black mother, she would have laid that teacher out. You know what I'm trying
Absolutely.
to knocked her out of her, right. But that's not what happens. And those things, they reshape our sense of normality. They normalize deviant behavior. They normalize, and this is something that it's not. So Netflix is just the unlucky ones. You know how people can come and bother you and keep doing things, and all of a sudden the wrong one comes, and you've had enough, and he's the one who catches the brunt of it. It's all of American media, all of white media that are doing these same things to us. They portray us, I would say that they use black people as the toilet for their basest impulses and drives. They use us to represent those things. When they make their movies, they portray us. You'll see a movie. I saw a family movie one time. It was a Christmas movie, and everybody brought their wife and so on and so forth there. And then the black person, what does he bring? Another man. Now, I mean, I'm just saying that if you think it's so good, why don't you have the white characters do it? If you watch every single movie, we're the ones who are portrayed, as I would say, in a deviant role. And the criminalized from birth. The young baby is selling drugs.
A baby.
A baby. And the first person you see him selling drugs to is a white man who then goes and gets into a car with a black woman with her breasts nearly exposed. And he's saying, in fact, I actually have that picture with me.
You can show it.
I don't know if you can see
No,
it.
go ahead. You can see the scene. Yeah, there it
the
is.
Scene, and there's the young woman.
So hold
You
this
look
baby.
up,
This
Eric.
baby's got yellow hair already.
Yeah. Even the baby's black. Right. You're pointing out another thing, which I was really.
I mean, at this point, they can't even process their hair. I mean, they can't even wear wigs. This is
So this is the way that Europeans, the stuff that's in their mind, the things they worry about, those are the things. So we have Thomas Jefferson, who's sleeping with a black woman. He's sleeping with a black woman who is a second generation woman in that situation. Her mother was in that same situation with Thomas Jefferson's wife's father, which would mean, if you just trace it, that this is his sister-in-law. Okay.
Right.
And he and
I have to correct it. She wasn't a woman. It was a child. She was like
took
14
her-
years
when he
old.
took her to Paris. She was 14 years old.
I mean, I would call that pedophile. I think
he's,
Charles Barron is correct. You know,
Correct.
when he was going to be administered the oath after becoming city councilman,
Yes.
he said he refuses to accept to honor this sacred solemn with a pedophile right in the midst, and he's right.
Correct. And the point I'm making, though, is that he, which is all of this is correct, is that now he's feeling certain ways about this. So he, in his notes to Virginia, goes through a whole thing to describe to you how white women are more beautiful. He also describes how black people have the inward smell, the nagar smell. He goes to, and the way he describes this, and that black men, he claims, black men want white women. Now here he is, he wants the black woman. He has a black woman, but he's claiming that black.
How many children did Jefferson have with Sally Hemings?
Called projection. He had at least 4 children.
This is
4 offspring
outrageous.
by her. This person with the smell and the lack of beauty. So I'm going to stop but I'm just saying. One of the things that he did was he compared us to apes. He said that the black man lusted after the white woman the same way the orangutan lusted after a black woman. So what does that make him? That makes him an orangutan, right?
Obviously.
Instead, he's pushing it off onto us. And these simian images are things they've been doing about black people from the very beginning. If you look at very thinly veiled metaphor, King Kong, Mighty Joe Young, all
Right.
of those, and always the white woman was the one who could control this beast. I mean,
Do you remember this episode? Do you remember what happened in 19? Go ahead, please show it. This is disgusting. No, go ahead, discuss
this.
this.
Shows you Vogue magazine, which apparently
Show
used
me.
as
Go
a
ahead.
template.
Move it over so they can see. Not. I don't want.
Yeah,
Not
I'll have to move it
LeBron.
back and forth.
Yes. This is what.
Apparently, this was a poster, a recruitment poster from World War One, in which they're portraying the Germans, not the Nazis. This is World War One. They're comparing them to a huge gorilla or beast, and you see the helpless white woman. All of this. What Leah Keem somebody said, it's a microscope into their mind. You can just read their mind just, right on the surface like that. And so what Vogue did.
But hold it. Destroy this mad brute and list.
Yes.
What did? Okay, I get it. You know,
Yes.
they want you to. White folks are recruiting whites to go fight for themselves. Okay,
Yes.
why do they have to show a black gorilla with a white woman?
That's in their mind. I told
But
you.
this is but
But
Dr. McIntosh, this is white folks fighting other white folks. There's no black involved in this.
when they, you know what, the same way, like if there's no back door, okay, if there's no black people in it, they'll put a black person in it because the black person is the toilet.
Got
Well, in
it. The
this
goal is
particular
always to
case-
denigrate and attack and debase blackness and Africans.
In
Got
this
it.
particular thing, it's an ape, but the representation is not a black person, it's an ape, it's a black ape, but the representation is really the representation they made of black people lusting after white women. It's a well-known.
No, but okay. Now, what's this got to
the
do with
point I was gonna
LeBron
make
James?
Is that in Vogue put out an edition in which they apparently use that as a template. The woman has the same color dress. The position of the club that the bees tell is in the same position of the ball. The head of the ball is and the expression on the face is the expression on LeBron. So this is not something that was done accidentally. And so this Good Times flick.
But let me ask you a question. When they approach LeBron James, I think he's close to being. They claim he's close to being a billionaire if he's not already. At no point does he say to himself, "Why? I don't need this."
Well, he probably didn't know what they were doing in that particular scene because our players have taken to making these types of gestures when they make a dunk. And what happens is it's a matter of reinforcement. As white society reinforces these things by showing them on TV, the commentators laughing at them, commenting, you find the antics increase. And this thing of where
It becomes normal now.
it's normalized and it's also proliferated, as they do this. So how does this relate to the Netflix? In Netflix, they have a raunchy scene in which the father is having sex with the mother. And the way they do it is they have it a shadow. So they have
Silhouette.
a bug-eyed dog who's watching it. You can see he's watching and you see the silhouette of them. And I mean, it's complete with slaps on the backside and the woman's head bobbing up and down. And the face of the man is as I told you before, is the outline of a gorilla. You can see
There it is. I see it.
That's a gorilla's face. That's not a man's face. And so that, again, these are some of the common stereotypes that Europeans have always made of black people. And what it is that this is the stuff that's in their mind. The stuff, the bestiality, that's their stuff. The anything when somebody accuses you of something false that it has nothing to do with you. I tell you, the best defense to look at first is projection. People project onto others very often what's going on with them.
Okay.
This movie is not subtle. They also use the B word, the N word. They have the father calling. The young boy says something that doesn't even sound, it's not offensive. He says, I'll take care of Grace, speaking about the man's daughter. And the guy goes, who is this N word that I have to kill? It makes no sense. They have the mother. I found out what the scene is. This scene is in the trailer, but people who've seen the actual series says she's just gone and spent the money that was for the rent and spent it on a bunch of clothes and stuff. And when she's walking down the street, what's supposed to be a compliment, some other women on the street holler at her, B, you look like money. Of course, they say the word completely out. There's just so many offensive things about this. Like I said in the trailer, you can get the 7 basic messages right in the trailer. You don't have to you don't even have to see the entire trailer. Now,
Wow.
The cartoonist for this movies is a guy who is supposed to be like an iconoclast. They characterize him as like a edgy cartoonist, and he's made these series like Family Guy and this type of stuff, and a very twisted individual, and you can see why. He in news. I'm sorry, not Newsday, the New Yorker said that a source of humor in his office was that his mother had once masturbated a dog. Now, if a man is saying that about his mother, you can't expect him
That's
to
sick.
say any less about us. But the fact of the matter is that he has always done these things that are that people would consider borderline, and you and I would consider way over the border. For instance, jokes about the Ku Klux Klan.
Right,
You know,
right.
the Ku Klux Klan, when you're making the black person, especially the butt of the joke, it's not funny. See, that's the difference between a satirist. A real satirist, they attack the powerful people.
Right.
Okay, they attack the powerful people. And this is why it's not humor, because we're not the protagonists in the joke, we're the butt of the joke. He had one which was a picture of Harriet Tubman, which he says was her doing Gwyneth Paltrow. And Harriet Tubman is portrayed as a Aunt Jemima type looking person, and Gwyneth Paltrow is nude. And this is in one of his earlier cartoons. So that's just to give you a segue into this series, which they use Rosa Parks as a joke. He says to his daughter, you know, okay, Rosa Parks, in a derogatory way because she's saying she's too militant. So they attack the ancestors. They attack Jesus. I mean, they attack white Jesus, black Jesus. They have a black Jesus who sits up on a cloud with a strange-looking angel, and they have God reach his hand down to hand him a cell phone to answer prayers. And the God they have has one turquoise fingernail and one lavender fingernail. Make of it what you will. I said
I get it. I get it. I know where this is going.
they're insulting. They attack. They even have Yenepu, and I can't even remember Yenepu's other name. The people they know him by the Greek name, but ancient African god. It's a non sequitur in the in the trailer. You say, what is this about?
Yeah,
Why is he in there? But they essentially attack every object of worship of black people, and they leave out two objects of worship. They don't say anything bad about Jews. They don't say anything bad about Muslims, not because they don't have problems with Muslims, but they know better than to attack the religious objects of Muslims because of the Salman Rushdie thing, where that guy, after he, trying to do humor around Muhammad ibn Abdullah, had to go into hiding for over a decade. So this thing is just bad all the way around. It's designed in the format that makes children look at it. You make a cartoon, children are going to think it's for them, and they're going to watch it. That's why, Joe Camel was such a bad idea for the advertisers.
Now, Dr. McIntosh, early on you mentioned, and I want to get to this, you mentioned creation of appetite. Talk to me about that. And is it a definitive, well thought out program to get us to want these things, to buy into the self-hatred, and they know exactly what the results will be? Go ahead.
They know exactly what they're doing. I mean, people studied these things. I mean,
Wow.
marketing, some of the marketing pioneers studied this stuff. They know how to associate an object with another object, or to associate a pretty woman with an object, or to associate something that is symbolically phallic, or symbolically, the other organ, as in order to make a person want to buy a particular object. So the creation of appetites has to do with this. If you can make people, mainly it was men who were smoking, when they kind of saturated that market, they wanted women to sell. Well, then they started representing as something Virginia Slims, so that they would create the market in the women. So they create the appetite for them to make more money. When you can take an object with no intrinsic value and make it an object of great worth. So you can take something that somebody can make for $1.50 in the Orient, and you can make it an object that'll make one black man or black youth kill another black youth in order to obtain a pair of sneakers that has, as I said before, no intrinsic value. You can take two things with equal intrinsic value, give one a fancy name, and that's what marketing is all about, is really the creation of appetites. And these things, the reason why this is important, because there are many, many issues that obviously people say, why are you talking about media? Why are you talking about all that stuff? Man, we got people dying in the streets in Haiti, dying in Sudan, we got them dying. All of this is related. It's an African principle of interrelatedness and interconnectedness. And it plays a role. It's these ways we feel about ourselves that allow us to kill each other. It's these ways we feel about having certain meaningless objects. Meaningless objects that will make us want to kill another person. Make us want to have. The Europeans have always been obsessed with gold, with things that other people use as trinkets and whatnot. And now, you have countries invading other countries in order to steal their cobalt. You have people, you had people exploiting and killing people to get diamonds. But all of that these are man-made appetites that you've created in people. And in fact, these are some of the things that are holding us back. We have the richest poor people in the world. I mean, because just about anybody you can get public assistance, you can get some food stamps, and if you were a person that like from one of these places where they have subsistence living, you would think you had it made. But our people don't feel they have it made, and they don't have it made. I'm not trying to represent that as the best life or as thriving, but what I'll say is that you're definitely going to make things worse for yourself if you have to have a $300 pair of sneakers for your children, because there's no way for him to get that, no way for you to get that if you're making.
So this is all part of our continued oppression, that they've got to create this appetite and they have to present it in such a way that you want to get it, but they know you can't get it. It's never going to work out.
Correct.
And so you have to find alternative means to satisfy those needs.
You gotta, and again, it's all about marketing, because what you're selling there is prison. You're selling prison. So the person now has to go and do something illegal. Now you feed the prison industrial complex. And what is one person's oppression down here is a boon for another person, the same social stratus upstate. That's a job for him.
Right.
Or a vendor.
For the whole community, everything exists.
For the vendors, that's a market for fruit cocktail or for toilet tissue that they supply. So the whole system, basically, we're on the bottom of it, always. I mean, and for us, they represent power. They're not representing power as a person becoming an engineer or becoming they're representing power as selling drugs. This is the market they give you. One ethnic group might have construction and cement and waste removal. Another might have the education department, might have law or be considered the lawyers and sort of thing. And you're satisfied with being the drug dealer, the drug seller. And you think that it's power for you to sell death to your own people.
To your own people.
To your own people. And then you feel like, well, they're buying it, and you have money. You think you've done something because you got some money, which the other person makes the money. He prints it.
Right.
I remember when they used to represent as a rich person a guy with a car dealership. General Motors makes the cars.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's very, very sad that the sense of what is power and the sense of what is money, all of this is a result of a dumbing down process and the creation of appetite.
And all this is directed always to us to make sure we're at the bottom. Dr. McIntosh.
Yes, sir.
What is CEMOTAP advocating? What is CEMOTAP wanting us to do? And how can we support that endeavor?
Okay, so it's a moving, something with a lot of moving parts. Initially, what we asked people to do was, don't look at this series. Okay, don't look at it. Don't purchase it. Sign the petition to tell them don't even release this series.
Okay.
Then after petitions, we said, cancel your Netflix and tell them why. When you do it online, they have a box where they ask you why. You tell them because you made this vile, insulting, criminal, cartoon, making fun of us, making fun of my people. And then we, at a certain point, in order to publicize what we're doing, because we were doing this, we were asking people to tell their churches, their mosques, their organizations, their sororities, their fraternities, to introduce this information to them. We wrote a couple of open letters that contain everything that's wrong with it. And we asked them to take that information out to your organizations. And then we had to go in the streets. You were there with us, and we appreciate that. We went down to the Netflix headquarters. We had our West Coast branch go to the Netflix headquarters in Los Angeles, and we went here in New York. And some of our people wanted us to initially attack Stephen Curry because he was he's listed as an executive producer. Well, Stephen Curry is not a cartoonist. Seth MacFarlane is a cartoonist. Stephen Curry is not a producer.
Yeah, every time you say Stephen Curry, I'm almost ready for you to say Stephen Fetchit, but go ahead.
Well, that's what Brother Quabina calls him. He said from now on he's known as Stephen Fetchit Curry. But the fact of the matter is that the Lear and these people, they put Curry's name. Now, Curry's not guiltless now, don't get me wrong, because one thing, he gave the wrong answer. When they asked him about it, they asked him, was it for children? He said no. And they asked him, would he let his children watch it? No, he wouldn't let his children watch it. Well, then we said, well, what about our children?
That's right.
So he gave the wrong answers. When the OJs were tricked into going to a place called Botswana,
the R&B group, the OJs.
R&B group, yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I mean, there was no way you could have grown up in my neighborhood and not known who the OJs were. But the OJs, when they went to Botswana, which was really South Africa, it was the Bantustan that they had created. But they didn't know. They didn't know the difference between Botswana and Botswana.
That's right.
They went there, and then they were told afterward, hey, you violated the, and they said, no, we went to Botswana. When they realized that they had done something wrong, they apologized. They made some reparations. They did some benefit concerts and stuff. And they said what we did was wrong with it. That's the way to do it. If Stephen Curry had said, hey, I didn't know. I was there, but I didn't know. The young woman, Thelma, who played Thelma, that's what she said. She said, I did one of the voices and stuff, but I didn't know it was going to come out this way. Okay, that's the right answer. But when you make excuses for, you make excuses for your master, we're not going to come after you first because
you're just a puppet.
You're just a puppet. And if you punch the puppet, you just get splinters in your hand. You got to get the person that's holding the strings. So that's why we focused on Netflix. However, we know that we can capitalize on our people's own self-hatred because when something happens, they want to get somebody black anyway. You know what I mean? They're very reluctant to go attack a white person.
Master, yeah.
But so when we know that, or we feel that when we go to Barclays Center or some of these places, and the stadium out there in California, just to bring attention to it, that you did something wrong, Stephen Curry, and to let people know what he did wrong. That's going to, because it's all about, the reason we know we're going to win is because we're not going to stop. Netflix forever, you know what I'm trying to say? If they haven't fallen or apologized or done something by the time I'm dead, it'll be, I'm trying to say I'll probably have in my obituary something about Netflix, not stop.
And let me add to our viewers, the reason why CEMOTAP and us, all of us, are going to support CEMOTAP, the reason why CEMOTAP is going to do this is, if you followed what Dr. McIntosh said at the beginning, all of the media, they're all offensive to African people. But sometimes it's the one point where you've just had enough and you blow up. But it's a collective reaction, meaning it's not just Netflix. They're all, literally, Dr. McIntosh, and this is how I raise my children. All of the media is wrong. You don't need it. There's nothing to watch. It's like you're being paid to be oppressed. Like when my younger brother would always go to movies, in 1982 was the last time I went to a movie, actually. I was with Brother Quahir, believe it or not. Okay. We go way back. We went to see E.T. And I was conscious by then, and I didn't like the images. And I said to them, there was like only one black guy in the movie. He was an FBI agent. I said, look how they're portraying that community. Everything is so sweet. Everything is so good. We don't live in those types of communities. I said, we shouldn't really be going to these movies. And then quite his brother said to me, okay, Raymond, do something about it. I said, you're right. I'm never going to a movie anymore. Since we make up 13% of the population, I want to see 13% of the actors, the actresses, the directors, the producers, the owners. Since that's not going to happen anytime soon, the only thing we can do, what did Congressman Adam Clayton Powell said, what's in your hand, black man? What's in your hand? Use your hand. Use the power of the dollar. So from 1982 on, I stopped going to movies. The one time that I did break that was in 1992 on my birthday. My friends took me out to go see Malcolm X. So I said, okay, Malcolm, okay, whatever. But the point is, I steadfast to it. I said, we don't need these things. And so this is why I know this will succeed, because it's all media, all of it. I mean, we're talking white folks here. But since we can't attack them all, this one is prime. I mean, it fell into our lap.
You don't understand this, then you won't understand anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's clear. We have the pictures to show you. Now, if you don't understand this, I can't help you. If you don't see what's wrong with this and that. We've always tried to pick objects like that. When we bankrupted the New York Post back in the early 90s, it was because of just how blatant the racism was in that. And, because we've had that history and we know what we can do. Of course, they don't publicize what we've done. But our own writers have publicized what we've done. Earl Corwell and Wilbur Tatum were able to write about how we reduced their circulation and we went church by church. That's what we did. And we got to go church by church, organization by organization, wherever our people are.
Okay.
That's where we have to reach them and let them see. And when they see this, our people basically want to do the right thing. And when we believe that's why we know we're going to.
Okay, so at a minimum, cancel your Netflix. And I mean, if for some reason you can't because it's gonna save your life, okay, we'll have to accept it. But cancel it. Write the cancellation letter. Get your families and friends. We've got to do this. Is a ground roots movement. Cancel it. And anytime we're having a call. For example, when CEMOTAP made that call to attack, to denounce both the headquarters in New York, downtown New York, and in Los Angeles, well, those of us in New York, we said, sure, we support this. So, Dr. McIntosh,
yes, sir.
What do you need us to continue doing? Please let us know.
Okay. Well, we have written material, and we have a video which kind of lays it out in 23 minutes. Really in 18 minutes, lays out everything that's wrong with it. We want people to distribute it, to get it around, tell people. If you're in an organization, let them know. As I said before, we have the written materials you can show them. And we want you to cancel your Netflix. And we want you to tell them why when you cancel. If it seems like it's too much of a sacrifice, you say, well, I need Netflix. That's how, as I told you before, Harriet Tubman would not feel sorry for you,
But can you imagine? We're paying to be oppressed.
We pay for our own degradation. What you have to do, though, is if you can't do one thing, then do some of the others. If you can sign the petition, sign the petition. If you can take some of the literature around, take some of the literature around. And you can always reach us at Dr. CEMOTAP at gmail.com. That's DRCEMOTAP at gmail.com. We also have a page on Facebook. You can go on Facebook and find CEMOTAP and find us. And we have a headquarters, an actual headquarters where you can mail to us if you want to do that, and a phone number.
What's the address of the headquarters?
Okay, the address of the headquarters is 13505 Rockaway Boulevard. And I know you can remember that because it's so similar to the address of the Rock, which I think is
13205. I
was going to say 13205 Merrick Boulevard. And we're 13505 Rockaway Boulevard, and that's CEMOTAP.
That's in South Ozone Park, New York, 11420. And two last things. Talk to me about Minefield, because I never miss it.
Okay, Minefield is a program in which we explore explosive issues in black mental health. We started out in the health slot on WBAI radio, 99.5 FM radio in New York, or WBAI.org also. You can do it online. We were on Wednesdays at 1. Now we've just recently changed to, because they said we weren't doing strictly health. So I was doing health from my perspective.
I mean, you've had Garvey on there. You've got everything. I mean, actually, I have to say this, Dr. McIntosh. I was wondering when they were going to figure it out. Like, you can call it a health program, but it was black health.
It's all mental health, brother. When you're talking about Garvey, you're talking about mental health. All right, so
Amos Wilson, Mumia Bujamal. I mean, I used to look forward to that. Go ahead.
So now I'm in another slot where I don't even have to, put a veneer of health on it. And so we can cover other things. We're on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Tuesdays at 10 a.m., WBAI 99.5 FM radio, or streaming to WBAI.org. And when you miss them, I put
archives.
Many of the old shows on SoundCloud, and I put, and they also have the WBAI archives where you can, where you can see the material.
Okay. Last question. You know how I feel about, about my love for Garvey. You know my love for Cooks. You know my love for Dessalines.
Yes.
You got to say something about the famous Dr. Amos Wilson. I have to tell people, I am an Amos Wilson protege. I mean, I knew Dr. Wilson. I even took a course with Dr. Wilson. And even then, I knew it. I said, this is the real deal. And I consider Dr. Amos Wilson to be the ultimate Garveyite, the mind of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He tells you that in any of his readings. But go ahead, say something. I mean,
Amos Wilson, was one of our brightest lights. And in psychology, he was revolutionary. He was a Garveyite. And I had the pleasure of, knowing him and being in an organization with him called Black Family Collective, and participating with him in forums and having him out to CEMOTAP on various occasions. And also used to drive him from his home to CEMOTAP. And he's actually visited my home.
Holy, so where did he live?
He lived in the Bronx.
So you would have to go to the Bronx, go get him, bring him to CEMOTAP, and then bring him back?
Well, sometimes it'd only be one way I'd have to take him or whatever, but that was no problem, because when you're driving him, you get to hear. You get to hear some of the stuff in advance before the books. There's certain things he said to me, like he told me one time, he said, I don't want to misquote him, but it was words to the effect of, you create the experts. In other words, it's not that people are experts, and then, no, you create the experts. Just like Oprah made Dr. Phil, right?
That's right.
You create, as a people, we create our experts, and then and that's how you do that. I've seen him one time. He was looking out of the window at his. He had a bookstore at this time, which was up over by the Apollo Theater.
Right.
He had a couple of stores on 125th. That was one, and then he had one that was on the first floor level. But this one was upstairs, and he looked down. And you got to see his mind at work, because he integrated all the knowledge that he had. I don't think Amos Wilson would have thrown Freud out any more than you would throw out Isaac Newton. These are people, they're Europeans, but they had something to say. And
right.
Of course, he would use it for the benefit of African people.
There it
not
is.
Just a nutcase thinking that these are gods to worship, but these
That's
are people
right.
when they have some science. So he was talking about Piaget at this time. So he looked out of the window and he saw these brothers on the corner. He said, those brothers are in Piaget's sensory motor stage. He said, and the sensory motor stage is a stage of development of your, Piaget wrote about the development of cognition.
Okay.
There are people who wrote about, Freud did the psychosexual
right. Oedipus complex and all that stuff.
That's psychosexual. And then Erickson did the psychosocial, which he saw things as a series of tasks. Freud saw them as a series of conflicts. And Piaget talked about different stages of cognitive development. And the first stage is that the child goes through a sensory motor.
Okay.
That's why the children, they put everything in their mouth, they touch everything. That's the way they're learning.
That's
and
right.
only when they exhaust that as a method of acquiring new information do they move into the next stage, which would be like pre-operations. and then from there into formal operations. And then 25% of the people, they say, never reached the fourth stage, which is abstract, the abstraction. But he looked and he pointed out to me what those brothers' concerns were on the corner, how they learned, how they did, you know what I mean? He just freestyling, like just look out the window.
So, according to Dr. Wilson, they were in the what stage was it?
Sensory motor stage of cognitive
Sensory. That's like the beginning.
sensory
Wow.
motor. You know, if you go and talk to them about what they're, you know, what's on their mind at any given time, is probably what they're going to put in their mouth, or what, you know, how they're going to
Got it,
satisfy
sensory.
some sensual
Wow.
need or whatever. So,
Okay.
you know, that's the kind of thing, as I said before, he would do. He would just think. Brother Sababu told me one time that he was so advanced, that Amos was so advanced that sometimes he would say, okay, I'm going to give them this now, and this will hold them, you know, because, you know, people will always wanted more from him, you know, this will hold them for a year or two. You know, yeah, no, he was a great man, and he consciously developed his psychology around the teachings of Marcus Garvey. He says so in his book, so it's not even up for conjecture. And when you look at it and you see what he was saying, you know, it's very clear that that's.
No, I call him the ultimate Garveyite in the mind of Marcus Garvey.
I call him the same thing.
Wow, you see, great minds think alike.
You can find it on YouTube. That's me and Brother Raymond talking about Marcus Garvey, the ultimate.
Amos Wilson, the ultimate.
Amos Wilson,
Yeah.
the ultimate Garvey.
No, but
so we were wrong. Marcus Garvey's the ultimate Garveyite, but
no, but you know,
No, but it's
really,
Amos Wilson,
he
yeah.
puts into real terms what Garvey is doing, and no, that's why I have the most respect for Amos Wilson. So that day when you called me and you said, I'd like to do a presentation on Amos Wilson, I said, sign me up. Okay, what do you need me to do? Are you kidding, Dr. Wilson?
yeah, Amos followed those things. I mean, like, for instance, he did businesses, you know. I told you he had 2 stores on 125th Street,
Yes, sir.
and eventually he moved, and he did what they, in The Godfather, when they had a certain kind of crisis, they said they went to the mats. You get all the people in, you go, you stay in the same house, you sleep on mattresses and that sort of stuff. And Amos Wilson went up to the Bronx on 138th Street. He opened up a spot there. He had a little laptop computer. He had a mattress in there. And then he began to crank these books out, you know, because he had already written the developmental psychology of the black child. But then he began to he was so prolific. He used to, Sababu said that in the morning, he would go through all of the journals. That's why his stuff was cutting edge. And the discipline that he was studying, because see, he was already educated above the ceiling of the Europeans' knowledge. The people that have to give him a credential, he had demonstrated he was educated above the ceiling in their knowledge when he wrote the developmental psychology of the black child. But he didn't have that doctorate at that point. So he got a doctorate in theoretical psychology from Fordham. And, you know, he had to, I mean, I'd have to say that his worst book was the PhD thesis. Not that it was bad. It wasn't bad. If I could write like that, I'd be happy. But, I mean, he had to tailor it in order to get that particular credential. But he had already written things that were better than that.
That's right.
And subsequently wrote things that were better than that. But, yeah, he was, and he lived what he taught. You know, very simple. He wasn't. No ostentatiousness about him at all.
You could see that.
You wouldn't know, you know, how smart he was. He just blended in. He used to wear like a little sports jacket, you know, like just plain player slacks. He might have a kufi sometimes.
That's right.
He might have some symbology from Africa when he's going to talk, but more or less he just kind of blended. But he was always observing, and I mean, it's kind of rough because he's observing you too. You know what I mean? He's making his analysis.
Some of his videos, when you watch it, it's not so much that he's killing it, or he is, it's the reaction of the crowd. It's like you can hear, for example, Elome Brad screaming, yeah, you got it, you know, or what was Alton Maddox, you know, when Alton Maddox had his program, and you could hear Alton Maddox, like every major statement that Dr. Wilson says, Alton Maddox is like confirming it. Yep, there it is. So, he was the real deal. So, Dr. McIntosh, I want to thank you for this. By the way, I have to tell our viewers, we've spoken to Dr. McIntosh before, but this is the first time at the Hillside Studios. So, and this obviously will not be the last time. And Dr. McIntosh, you're not a stranger. Anytime you want to come here, all you got to do is pick up the phone, and you know you've got a home here where you belong.
Thank you so much. Will this occur? Oh, no, it's okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, is this occurring after this event? Oh.
No, we're doing this today. Go ahead.
So,
Put this up.
CEMOTAP is having a virtual Black History Weekend on the 20th and 21st of July, Saturday the 20th and Sunday the 21st. For the 20th, that day is called John Henry Clark Day. We're going to have Dr. Oya Ajua Ma'at. We're going to have the Honorable Charles Barron. We're going to have Dr. Joy DeGrew, Dr. William Sorrell, Dr. Tyreen Wright, Brother Gil C. Noble, that's the son of Gil Noble, and Dr. Ife Williams. On that Sunday, it's Malefi Asante Day, and we're going to have Dr. Jabali Ade, Nana Betty Dobson, Professor Milton Alamati, Dr. Na Dove, Brother Omawali Clay, Dr. Velva Bowles, and Dr. Malefi Asante, and I'll be moderating that. And that's on the 20th and the 21st. Anybody who wants information about that should text 347-907-0629. Don't do it on the day of the event. Do it before, and we'll send you the flyer for it, which will have the Zoom meeting number and the Zoom passcode.
Okay, you mentioned July 20th. So I gotta let the whole world know that's the birth. It was on a Monday, July 20th, 1914, in Kingston, Jamaica, at 121 Orange Street. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey established and founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So this July 20th, for the first time ever in Southeast Queens, we're holding our Founders Day Parade, the day that Mr. Garvey founded the UNIA. The parade assembles at 9. We begin at 10. It will originate at the Jamaica Breeze Linden, which is 19403 Linden Boulevard. Make our way west on Linden to Farmers Boulevard. Farmers Boulevard, make our way south to Merrick, and then turn east on Merrick. And then when we get to 13205 Merrick Boulevard, we'll stop to honor the FACA Rock, the Federation of African Caribbean American Restaurant Owners Corporation. And then the parade will continue and end at Jamaica Breeze Merrick, which is 23202 Merrick Boulevard. This is the very first time Southeast Queens will be honoring the founding of the UNIA. So we've got big things for July 20th. So, and then at 2 o'clock, we're going to insist everyone go to the CEMOTAP Zoom Black History Weekend, and they're calling it Saturday, July 20th, in honor of Dr. John Henry Clark. Dr. McIntosh, I thank you, and it's time.
General, thank you, and I thank UNIA and the President General and the Assistant President General and everybody that made it possible for me to be here today and to hear and to support, and for the fact that they've been supporting what we're doing. Appreciate it.
Okay. So at this point, it's time to go back home.
Yes, sir. I'll leave 3 of those in case you need them.
Africa is the land where I come from. Africa, our father's land, is calling us home. So long we have been a slave, and no more will we roam. So I hope and I pray that the day will come when we see the rising sun. When no more crying, nor victimizing, no more starvation.